President Biden sticking to his deadline for the Afghanistan withdrawal. He says it's all contingent on the Taliban's continued cooperation. This is new video showing the chaos still surrounding the Kabul airport. Despite the numbers still on the ground, there are reports of some U.S. troops already leaving. Joining me right now is the author of Hillbilly Elegy and Ohio U.S. Senate candidate J.D. Vance. J.D., it's good to see you again. Thanks very much for being here. Your reaction to what has taken place. It is a dark day in Afghanistan today.
Yeah, it is. It's a dark day, and it may be a dark week and an even darker September. I mean, there are two important facts coming out of Afghanistan. The first is that of the people that we've evacuated, maybe 10 to 15% of them are U.S. citizens. So we're actually prioritizing Afghan refugees more than we're prioritizing our own citizens. And the second thing is, our politicians in D.C. love to talk about the fact that a lot of these Afghans helped us, and of course some of them did. But I've heard from sources inside the government and outside the government that 90% of the people that we're evacuating, we have no knowledge who they are. We don't have papers. We don't have any identification. And anywhere between 1 in 200 to 1 in 100 of those people are actually coming up on known terrorist databases using biometric information. So we have no idea who's coming into our country. And at the same time, we're stranding Americans in a mass hostage situation. It's a total disaster.
Well, how do we have no idea? I mean, how is it possible that only 15% of the people that we are picking up are Americans? I mean, he keeps saying that he wants to get Americans out of Afghanistan. He's saying it's only 15% of the people are actually Americans?
Yeah, no, it's clear they're not trying hard enough. But if we've learned anything, unfortunately, in the past 20 years in Afghanistan, it's that our political leadership and the Pentagon bureaucracy just doesn't know what it's doing there. I think one of the silver linings of this Afghanistan debacle, if there is one, is that we're all learning how inept our Pentagon leadership and our political leadership is when it comes to these ridiculous nation building and misadventures. So, we should take some real knowledge away from this situation that a lot of the people who are telling us they know what they're doing, they're actually just lying to us. Afghanistan reveals that to us, if nothing else.
This is so concerning. There are also concerns closer to home. Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich warning prisoners freed by the Taliban could take advantage of the border crisis, crossing into the U.S. from Mexico. He wrote a letter to President Biden about the potential new terrorist threat, J.D., and we know that we've already seen apprehensions of people on the terror watch list from the border.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think the assumption that a lot of people have is that everybody coming across the southern border is Mexican or Guatemalan or Nicaraguan. But there are over 100 countries represented in people coming across the U.S. southern border. And by the way, in Afghanistan, we know that the Taliban released 5,000 hardcore al-Qaeda terrorists from a prison there a couple weeks ago. Eventually, if we don't get our southern border under control, they're going to come either through the southern border or they're going to hop a ride on one of these totally chaotic flights to the country. Either way, it's totally unacceptable. I say, Maria, just to plug myself a little bit, this is why we need better leadership in Washington. So I'd encourage folks to go to jdvance.com to learn how to help us out.
I'm worried about September 11th. 20 years later in this environment. Let me bring KT McFarland in, former national security advisor under the Trump administration. KT, your thoughts. Jump in here.
We're not getting all those Americans out. And if President Biden is saying he's going to get them out in the next 2 or 3 days, he's lying. There are thousands of Americans all around the country in sort of groups of 2 or 4 or 6 teaching school or helping farming cooperatives. They're not making their way to Kabul airport. And if they can't get to Kabul airport, they're not going to get out because that's the one place they get out. I think it's pretty extraordinary that American congressmen and senators have to be the clearinghouses for American citizens who cannot get out of that country. The pictures and the images we are going to have in the coming months of American hostages, Americans abandoned by their own country, on their knees to Taliban, gun-toting Taliban, is going to be a gut punch, not only to our position in the world, not only to the Americans, not only to the effort in Afghanistan, but to us as a nation. We always thought we were competent. We always thought we had the best military in the world. We're not anymore, and thanks to those pictures.
Well, I mean, look, what gets me is why we're negotiating with the Taliban. I mean, is this not the group that just engineered a coup? and took over Afghanistan. Now they're threatening everybody on the ground, to advance to the airport. J.D. Vance, what do you think about that? Should we be? I mean, listen to what the president said yesterday. This is all contingent on the continued cooperation of the Taliban. They're not going to cooperate.
Yeah, it's just so pathetic. We're the country that defeated the Nazis in World War II, and now we're reduced to basically begging the Taliban so that the Biden folks can get our own people out. It's ridiculous. And to KT's point, the reason we have all these stranded Americans is because you cannot get to the Kabul airport basically without the Taliban approving it. They've got checkpoints all over Kabul. They've got checkpoints all over Afghanistan. I do not know why our government, our leadership allowed us to be in this position where we needed the compassion and the sympathy and the charity of the Taliban to get American citizens out of that country. It is a disaster, and she's exactly right that over the next month, we're going to realize exactly how bad it is.
I hope we don't see heads chopped off again. I mean, those videos that we used to see years ago, I mean, apparently ISIS, now ISIS-K they call themselves, are back. J.D. Vance, we'll keep talking about this, and we will catch up with you soon. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.